You know those guys. All right, 7:01, we're going to go ahead and get started.
Good evening. We have with us this afternoon or this evening Lucy Bobbing and Vivian Anderson, third graders at Navarro Elementary School, who are going to lead us in our pledges.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor this flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
Dear Lord, we thank you today for all your blessings, for all the teaching and learning that has taken place in our schools, both in and out of the classroom, for the talents and gifts that have been shared and the challenges that have been faced. We thank you for the successful outcomes of our school events and for the continued health of all of our students, staff members, and community members. We ask that you be with us in our deliberations this evening and help us to be wise in the decisions we make for the good of all those who have placed their trust and confidence in our leadership. Give us insight to lead with integrity so that our decisions may reflect what is right and good for the students of the Navarro Independent School District. As we head into the summer, watch over us and guide us each day as you have done this past year. Help us return to school with a new spirit and renewed energy, ready for learning. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
And the girls have a UIL academic reading that they would like to share with us. And I asked them to come to the stage so they can be seen. Y'all can all be seated.
All right, testing. Oh, it does work. So the girls have written bios they've asked for me to read about them. Come on down, Lucy. So Vivian's going to share her essay first. So Mrs. Wilson and I are super proud of these girls. They're winners of our UIL Ready Writing Contest. That was third grade. So that they participated in all through the springtime. And we just had our competition fairly recently, and they are our winners, two of our winners. So Vivian, let me tell you a little bit about Vivian. Vivian is a third grader at Navarro Elementary School. She is an avid reader and is currently reading the fourth book in the Harry Potter series, The Goblet of Fire. Vivian loves geology, and she has an enormous rock collection consisting of metamorphic, sedimentary, and igneous rocks. In fact, she brought her collection up to school to share with her classes. Vivian loves writing both expository and narrative essays, and today she's going to share her essay on the topic, a pet she would like to own.
Today I am going to share my essay about pet tortoises. I'm going to show you what they do, how you care for them, their habitat, and what they eat. An expository essay is a genre of writing where you explain your topic in detail and provide evidence to support. Tortoises. Tortoises are cool animals, but they aren't for everyone. Tortoises are also a big responsibility. They need a lot of space to grow because they can grow to 4 feet. Also, you'd better be ready to have them for a long time because they can grow up to 100 or more years. They need a lot of time and attention. Plus, if you travel a lot, this might not be the best pet for you because you'd either have to hire an expensive house sitter or let a 1,000-pound animal in your car. So like I said, tortoises are a big responsibility. When it comes to what they do, tortoises are playful in their own way. They usually lie on rocks in the sun to digest food after they eat. But be warned, they are mischievous. Mischievous, I mean. It is surprising to me that they don't sleep a lot. And they're not nocturnal, though. Tortoises are very social also, which means they always communicate to each other. Tortoises in the wild are very different than pet ones. I mean, in terms of their habitat, which is what kind of environment they live in or where they live. Pet tortoises need a big yard with a fence around it. The fence usually needs to be 3 feet tall if they're an adult. The yard also needs vegetation, like grass, or if you have weeds, the tortoise will take care of it. Tortoises eat a lot. Whether it's cabbages or broccoli, they love to eat. They mostly eat vegetables like carrots or celery. Sometimes they eat wheat, hay, or grass also. Like I was saying, tortoises are very cool animals, whether they are 100 years old or sitting on a log in the sun. You're never going to be lonely or bored with a loving tortoise.
Wow, that is incredible. A lot of facts and details and information that she put into her expository. Well, now we have Lucy. So let me tell you a little bit about Lucy. Lucy is a third grader at Navarro Elementary School. She loves writing. In fact, she's been writing stories since daycare, she explained. She enjoys playing with her twin sister, Nora, and Lucy also likes to be very creative. She's currently designing an original city called Abraham Hills, named after Abraham Lincoln, who happens to be her favorite president. Today, Lucy will be reading her narrative essay on the topic, An Adventure in the Forest.
Before I start reading to you my story, I'm going to tell you what exactly a narrative story is.
A narrative story, in my opinion, is the most wonderful story that that could not happen in real life because it is fiction. I was stamping in the river. I was stamping in the river when I saw darkness up ahead. I started wandering further and further, letting my curiosity take the lead. I hopped out of the water, feeling the brisk wind on my ankles. I was in the forest. I felt like I was being chased by a bear or a wolf. Then I screamed at the sight of, "What is that?" I creeped closer, smelling only the scent of pine and mud. One step closer, and I fell into some kind of animal's hole. My foot was stuck. I didn't think of doing anything. The wind blew even harder, making me shiver. A strange figure quickly came up to me and freed me from the hole and ran away. Who was that? I thought. What was that? I looked down at my legs and saw a bush filled with berries. I was starving. Not thinking, I threw myself onto the ground, not even caring if the berries were poisonous or not. I grabbed I grabbed what looked like 20 berries and popped them into my mouth. Then my stomach felt even more empty than before. My mouth turned dry and I fell to the ground. I woke up, but felt like 30 minutes later. I was still in the forest. I got up from the ground. Am I still in the forest? I asked myself, looking to the distance. I saw a towering mountain. The river I had came from had disappeared. Where was I? I heard a screaming noise from the mountain above. I quickly looked up. I ran towards the mountain and started climbing upward. I was freezing, my hands, face, especially my arms. I had been wearing a short sleeved shirt that day. I saw a tunnel up ahead. I went inside with my eyes closed, and once I opened them, I was back in my cabin where I belonged.
All right. We can go ahead and get started now. It is 7:12, we'll call this meeting to order. Members present, Hank Peter, Clint Shine, Don Julian, Greg Gilchrist, Renee Redfield, and Melissa Sartani. Chris Large is not here this evening. Announcing this meeting is due call, and notice this meeting has been posted in accordance with Texas Open Meetings Act, section 551.043 of Texas Government Code. So we'll move right on into our recognitions.
Alright. So tonight I was going to recognize our child nutrition department, and Carlette Draybeck is the director of child nutrition. She is unable to be here. She is still battling some of the remaining pieces of having had COVID, and so she is out today, but had emailed me and said, please go ahead and talk about this. So she had a Department of Agriculture procurement review, and she had absolutely zero findings, which is extremely unique for an audit. And the gentleman that talked with us last week said that in all of his years of doing this, he's had very few that have had no findings, and he actually searched to try to find something he could talk to us about. When she asked, what can I do to get better, even though I've had no findings, can you tell me something to work on? Which I really appreciate, but I just wanted to honor and recognize the child nutrition department and all the things that go behind to make it work for us. That is Carlette doing all the paperwork and making sure everything is up to date, correct, and filed on time, and it shows through the audit where there were no reviews. Also, I want to take this time, and she was going to help me do this, but through Parlette, and she and I have sat down and talked about various things we can do for our child nutrition department. And one of the things that has happened for the 21-22 school year is that USDA is allowing waivers for districts to do the SSO, Seamless Summer Option for Child Nutrition Program, which increases funding, supports student access, and balances operational needs. Generally, you have to have high economic disadvantage numbers and eligibility, and we do not have that, so we've never qualified. However, the USDA is opening that up to allow all students next school year to eat free breakfast and lunch regardless of our eligibility. So it's only for 1 year, but next year we will be able to offer and will be offering free breakfast and free lunch for all students. Yes. Arlette has done a good job of getting all that. And we'll get more information on that out to the public. All right, so we're going to do Teacher of the Year, and if my principals would come up, and I'm going to ask Jenna to take pictures, please. And Ms. Monroe, yes.
We'll try this without the microphone. So we had 2 Teachers of the Year. They're at the high school, and we had our Support Person of the Year. We want to include everyone in that. I don't see her; she's not here. I'll go ahead and say Debbie Daly is our Support Person of the Year. She's not here, but y'all, a lot of y'all interact with her on a daily basis. She's at the front, so when you see her, high five her, tell her thank you. She does a great job. And so let's call up our Teachers of the Year. Let's start ladies first. Let's call up Miss Sarah Halton. Teaches special education and does an amazing job, not just the way she loves and cares for her students, but really taking kids that that need some help where to get and she moves them forward so far. She does a great job. Thank you. Congratulations. And now teaching FFA, here's Mr. Michael Warden. You're going to hear from him in a little bit because we've got a lot of state FFA guys here tonight. Congratulations, sir. Thank you for the many hours of all you guys do. Congratulations.
Hey, at junior high, we had multiple guys. It was real hard for me to sit there and say, hey, we're going to have one Teacher of the Year. Considering all the things that we went through this year and the difficulties we had just getting help a lot of times, it was real hard for us to say, hey, one person stood out more so than anybody else. So at junior high, everybody was Teacher of the Year. So thank you, Coach Larry. Thank you to all the junior high folks. But it was hard to say, hey, we're going to represent everybody here. So we had to choose one representative. And the representative is Miss Annie Cole, but she's not here either. So Annie Cole will be our representative. But we want to make sure that all our teachers and all our staff is recognized for the incredible job they did, guys. My hair was gray at the beginning of the year. I think it is white now. Through all things we went to. So I certainly appreciate all my staff, both the professionals and the paraprofessionals for the outstanding job they did to make sure they took care of all our kids. My paraprofessional of the year out here also is Miss Nikki Grisham. Now, one time in the entire time she's worked for us at junior high, I've heard her from God. She just goes out and does whatever is best for kids. It doesn't matter what it is. So we will make sure those two get recognized at that time. All right.
And I'm Miss Monroe, the counselor here at the intermediate. I have the privilege of introducing our Teacher of the Year, Miss I have gotten to pair together on some wonderful projects, and she's very deserving of this award. Also, for our paraprofessional of the year, the campus decided to recognize, we have 6 paraprofessionals on our campus, and they all are the backbone of the school. They keep the things going. They're there in a second when we need their help in the classroom or anywhere we need them to be. And so representing our paraprofessionals is Rebecca Sneed. All right, at the elementary level, I am proud to present our Teacher of the Year to Miss Tony Spear. Give her a hard time. She had 1 year of teaching in Sabine ISD, but managed to make it back, where she did her student teaching. She's in her 27th year of teaching in Navarro ISD. This is her 2nd time receiving Teacher of the Year. And she's telling me she wants to retire next year, but we're gonna try to convince her otherwise, because she's just an amazing person and a valuable asset to all of us. Yes, she's taught all of your duties, I'm sure. Thank you, Mrs. Hunter. And then our paraprofessional of the year, I don't think she's here tonight, but her name is Mrs. Flo, Amy Flo. And she's been a pre-K teacher in the past, but she's new to Navarro Elementary within the last 2 years, and she's just one of those paraprofessionals that picks up extra tasks, doesn't need to be told what to do. She just finds a way she can help and moves in, and so we appreciate her as well as Mrs. Spear at Navarro Elementary.
All right, I'll call back up here, Mr. Wardell and Mr. Weller. You all can come over here and kind of introduce your teams one at a time. FFA, they always have really good years, and it's worth pointing out, what was it, 6th or 17th with the state this year? 17th with the state this year, and they're going to tell you all about it.
Okay, I'll start with, I'll start with the team. I think actually none of them are able to make it here, so I'll start with them. Our horse evaluation team, which focuses on evaluating horses both confirmation classes and performance classes. They placed 5th at area, which qualified them for state, and at state they placed 16th out of 68 teams from across the state. And these are all size schools. We don't separate out between 4A, 3A, all that stuff. So out of the top 68 teams in the state, there were 16. And one of the girls, Auburn Frost, was 13th high individual out of 261 contestants. The other members of the team were Grace Vogel, Olivia Rodriguez, and Peyton Trout. And so I think that's 2 juniors and 2 sophomores on the team. So they should all be back next year and are dedicated to studying even harder and getting even better. So next up, let's go with Land.
Are they here?
Boys. Come on up here, boys. So y'all saw these guys back in the fall after their area contest when they qualified at that time for state, and then they had to wait all the way until April to go to state contest. So we've got Otto Gelder, Logan Purdom, and Jackson Crane. In April, went to the state land contest kind of outside of Stephenville, and out of 58 teams that were there from across the state, they placed 22nd. And Otto actually was 7th high individual out of 225 contestants. And actually, I'll say he tied for 6th, but he lost the tiebreaker, so that was 7th. But still, top 10 out of all those contestants is still a really great accomplishment. So he did very well. Oh.
Good.
Backtrack a little bit. Before the state contest, a couple weeks before the state contest, we had one last practice contest that we were able to go to, was in Blanco. And Otto was the second high senior at the contest, third high senior, I got the numbers mixed up, and won $1,000 scholarship from that contest as well, so. Okay, and then wildlife. I think we're missing one from wildlife, but. So the wildlife team plays fifth at area as well, and so for most of our CDE or career development events, top 5 teams at area qualify for state. So we got in there this year in the 5th spot. At the state contest, which was held out in Nacogdoches, which was a change for us. Our area contest is held in San Angelo. So going to Nacogdoches was a whole new world out there with plants and habitat and all of that. But they placed 23rd out of 60 teams from across the state. And unfortunately, I've got a couple seniors on this team. I guess I failed to mention I got a couple seniors on land too. So Jackson's going to be pulling the weight next year, getting some more. Reed, Richter, Hayden Boyson, and Cullen Bishop. And Reed and Cullen are both seniors. We've got Hagan still as a sophomore, so he'll be back. And we have another member, Talon Stevens, who's a junior. He should be back next year. And we'll have some younger ones that were also practicing with the team this year. So hoping for some more good things next year.
I'll start by doing an alphabetical order. So the farm business team wants to come up first. The farm business team was first in district, second in area, and then only missed in area by 4 points, and only first at state. So the members are Haley Blanchett, Haley Blade, David Clark, and Lucas Gilbert. And I think they are all from that next year. So we should have a good strong team.
Together, come on. We like each other. Come on, we're gonna get work together next year, so come on.
All right, our next team will be the floral team. Our floral team has had just a really good year this year. They were first place in district, first place in area, and 8th place at state. We've also won in Janae and been high individual at different contests throughout the year. Won to high at the Charlton that had over 400 students at the contest, and then Janae was high individual. Really good year. The team members are Janae Brownhill, Abigail Pollock, Randall Baxter, and Lauren Hunt. So we're losing one in Janae. Freshman team.
Good job.
Plan team was first in district, 4th in area, and 5th in the state. Team members were Kelly Kimball, David Wilson, Lauren Ellie, and Lucas Gilbert. 2 seniors on the team, 2 sophomores. Last team is the range team. team members were Ellie Kimber, Lauren Ellie, and Janae Brownie, so they are all seniors. And Reed, sorry, all seniors, but they were first at district, third at area, and 14th at state.
I guess I wrote down a couple of other things. We have three of the seniors that are here. Janae, Callie, and Lauren, we found out last week that they have each been awarded $1,000 National Space Scholarship. Their scholarships is the Ford Trucks, Go Ford Trucks, Built Ford Hub scholarships, which are sponsored by local Ford dealerships, so they'll each be getting $1,000 there. Logan, hopefully this hasn't changed, it hasn't changed, right, next year? Okay, Logan has, I guess, signed and that to go and do livestock judging at South Plains Community College next year. And then, what did we go back there? Hagen was elected, was that last week or the week before, our days are running together. Was elected as the Guadalupe Valley District FFA Student Advisor for this next year. Haley actually retired as district reporter that same evening. And then, she's not here, but we did find out also last week that Shelby Law, a senior, is receiving one of the Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo, $20,000 exhibitor scholarships. So that, lots of good things this year.
Thank you, guys.
All right. With athletics, I'm gonna do a little brief overview before I hand it over to each individual coach. In the spring, we had golf, tennis, and track, baseball and softball. All of them advanced past district. We had 3 team district championships with boys tennis, baseball, and softball. Baseball's still playing, so we'll wait another month to recognize them. And our total count for this year, which I was pretty impressed with, we had 23 kids receiving honors for academic all-state throughout the year, which is pretty special. The amount of work we have them go through working in athletics, a lot of them are in band as well. We still had 23 great student athletes, and that's what we're looking for. So with that,
the golf this year, we had a great year. I've got 2 golfers that qualify for regionals, Jackson Springs, and then also Riley Ward, going up. Jackson finished 2nd place as a medalist, and competed April 19th and 20th in Victoria, and she tied for 17th out of 94 participants. So she had a great 2 days there. And Ron played on the 21st and 22nd. He qualified 1st place out of district as a medalist, and he placed 34th out of 94 participants. So again, I'm just proud of them for the hard work and all the time they put in and representing the barrel class at the regional tournament. Thank you. And now, Coach Blunt with tennis.
I don't know if I'll use my phone or not. I'm gonna try not to use it. So everyone standing here has received academic all district. We'll start with Tatum and Leanne. We're girls doubles champions at district. They had a round 1 win at regionals. It was pretty big, and then ran into some problems in the 2nd round, but they played very well. They're sophomores. We expect a lot out of them in the next couple of years. We're very proud of them, both academic all district. Haley Hoffman and Ethan Scheffler were also district champions. had a 19-3 overall spring record, which is pretty great, hard to beat, actually. Haley is a senior. She is going to, or she has received a second team Texas High School Coaches Association Academic All-State and TTCA Academic All-State Honors. Ethan is a junior, and he's Academic All-District. Reagan Blunt is a regional alternate. She received Academic All-District. Bella Halton and Reed Richter are regional alternates also. Both receiving Academic All-District. Reed has received Texas High School Coaches Association First Team Academic All-State and TTCA Academic All-State. Alex Levens and partner Caden, he's not here, but they both play doubles for me. Here and there, we kind of bounced them around, but they did pretty well. Academic All-District. Sydney Seidel played a little bit of everything for me too, and she ended up playing singles and Academic All-District. Brooke Chestnut is one of our seniors. We'll miss her. She received honorable mention Texas High School Coaches Association Academic All-State and TTCA Academic All-State. We have a couple of regional qualifiers who are not here. Ashley Gosh is one of our seniors, and Preston Groby, also one of our seniors. Okay. But this is, these are some that we'll miss very, very much next year, and some that we'll get back. So we're very excited for all of that.
Come on. Don't be doing this by now. You're in high school. You're not doing this. Alright, if you're in the back, find a window between the person in front of you. Alright, there we go. Oh, alright, that's okay. You got it. Here we go. Good job.
This is our girls track team that made it to regionals. We qualified for regionals. We had one young man that qualified for regionals with us, Hunter Hagerly, who made it in the discus, and he's not with us today. He ended up about 9th place in his attempts to throw the discus. With these ladies, we have Skylar, who qualified in the 100. And in the mile relay, they are all our mile relay team. And Vanessa also qualified in the open quarter. These young ladies ran on a Friday, disappointed in our time. We didn't think, I was ready to send them home. We didn't do as well as we thought. We got in 7th. We showed back up Saturday, and they placed 4th. They did an outstanding job. Our region, the four teams out of our area for the boys were all from, they won the region. So our area meet basically was our regional meet. The girls, the boys was all 4 from our area. The girls, Stafford got in there. Our area meet in our district is one with that in this region. And so to place it all, it says a lot for these young ladies. But, again, we have Kate Fairway, Scott Black, Zoe, Taylor, and Blaine. I like them. These young ladies, no seniors, sophomores and juniors.
have a lot to look forward to. It's just going to
Softball team had an outstanding season. Overall record of 21-7, 6-0 in district. And, in district and right before districts, when we really kicked it into high gear, it took us a little bit of time just to get our rhythm and timing and our teamwork together. But once they did, through district, we run rolled every team but one, and that was a 9-run win there. So they really dominated district, did an outstanding job. By district champs. Unfortunately, in the second round, we ran into a really good San Antonio team, and it would have been great to see that game be a series there, but leave it up to a coin flip, and that's what happens there. But, they've had an outstanding season. Super proud of each and every one of these and how they came together. And as you see standing here, there's a lot of sophomores, juniors, and a lot of youth. We have one senior, Haley Ortiz, and I'll start at that end with naming them each. She's had an outstanding 4 years playing softball and other sports for us. So Haley Ortiz, our senior down there, Samantha Mundine, sophomore, Sarah Howard, sophomore, Jill Reed, sophomore, Samantha Wegman, sophomore, Cassidy Bishop, junior, Kelsey Booker, junior, Sydney Stevens, junior, Berkeley Andrews, junior, Melina Tavares, sophomore, and Leland Sturm, sophomore. So, there's a lot of bright, good years left for this group of young ladies, and I know they're going to do exceptionally well. Thank you.
Good job, girl. There's always one. All right, y'all, look beautiful. There you go.
All right, and lastly, let's talk some UIL academics. I'm going to read the list of teams that went. If you're still here for these teams to come up here, a lot of these, like over half of these kids are right now practicing on the MIA, which, by the way, is Thursday, Friday, Saturday at 7 p.m. and 2 p.m. on Saturday and Monday. And a lot of them have work tonight. Ms. Hill can't be here because she's got some obligations. So a lot of these people are working too. So I'm just going to read for you real quick all the teams that win. Not every name, there's too many here. But accounting, calculator applications, computer science, copy editing, editorial writing, feature writing, news writing, journalism teams who placed first overall, literary criticism, mathematics, and number sense were all the UIL academic teams that went to regionals. So that's pretty impressive. Not only athletics, state band, and then look at your academics there.
And we are not honoring Chris Cavazos. I know he's on here. He was unable to make it tonight, so we are going to move that to the following board meeting in June.
All right. We're gonna move right along, and item number 5, that's public participation. First one we have is Aaron Rich.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Just wanted to take a quick moment to probably assume why I'm here. Touch again on where we stand on our policy and our plan for masks and them being mandatory or optional going forward. As some of you may have seen, and I hope that you did, Governor Abbott announced on Sunday that there were zero COVID deaths to report, and the lowest number of new cases since they started reporting. I wanted to take a moment. I know I usually just come up here and talk, but I try to do a little bit better organized. So this is there was the conclusion from a study that was published in the National Library of Medicine. It's a government library, it's the largest in the universe. And it has a conclusion of testing the efficacy and safety of wearing face masks as a preventative intervention for COVID-19. And the conclusion says that the data suggests that both medical and non-medical face masks are ineffective to block human-to-human transmission of viral and infectious disease such as COVID-19, supporting against the usage of face masks. Wearing face masks has been demonstrated to have substantial adverse physiological and psychological effects. These include hypoxia, hypercapnia, shortness of breath, increased acidity and toxicity, activation of fear and stress response, rise in stress hormones, immunosuppression, fatigue, headache, decline. I could keep going. Most teenagers deal with these without having to wear a mask. So I think that one of the things that I learned from the meeting last month is that there's a lot of concern, not whether or not masks are effective or if masks are needed, because as we all know, our children are wearing them outside of school. Supermarkets don't even require you to have them anymore. Walmart doesn't require you to have them anymore. Target doesn't require you to have them anymore. I learned that more for y'all is that there's a concern of, what if something came in and what would that mean for us? And so if there isn't enough for you guys to change your policy on whether masks should be optional inside, which I hope that there is at this point, then I think that it would be worth it to reconsider the policy. And I think the biggest concern that I remember hearing was that if there is someone who does test positive and they are exposed to a classroom, everybody that was exposed to them goes in quarantine, correct? It's a current policy. So as we kind of morph now, we're 3 months past the governor rescinding his requirement. The science and the data lead us to this conclusion that the policy needs to be adjusted, and I know that's going to be a topic of discussion. And I guess I'm just here to make sure that it's said and it's impressed upon you all how important it is to, according to your survey, at the very least 50% of your parents, that this is something that needs to be optional. The science shows that children are bearing the brunt of the mask wearing experiment because adults are not being required to wear them outside. And so the children being the ones that have the lowest level of transmission, I believe that, if I have it correctly, there were under 500 total cases of child mortality with this, out of 17 million children in the United States. I believe that's 0.002%. So these numbers are so incredibly low. If it's threat of having to close down the school again, or the threat of having to send a bunch of kids home, the events that we're doing, the children are being without masks everywhere but school, and we're getting them taken out of the classroom. My daughter in junior high literally wears hers all the time because she's not afraid of a virus, she's afraid of being yelled at. And if that's what our children are experiencing in school, are we really doing them the best we can do? They're wearing them out of fear of being yelled at and being in trouble rather than this is for safety, especially when the science isn't back for that. My wife wanted me to read a prepared statement for her. I'm gonna have her come next time so she can read it. But she's at home taking care of our 6 children, 2 of which we intentionally homeschool because of mask policy. So while I do have respect for people who fear that they wouldn't feel safe in schools, I still would like to point out that those of us who don't feel safe in schools with mask policy have also had to make adjustments. So the science, the evidence, the leaders, the leadership have all led us to the same conclusion that we need to adjust how we approached it. We took a very cautious stance to begin with, and I think we now have enough evidence and data and science to back it up that this policy needs to be be adjusted, and especially, I know it's on the docket tonight to talk about for summer programs, that it does more distraction and harm than it does prevention at this point, and I think that everybody's done a great job, but if you want to keep wearing your mask, by all means, but for the rest of us, please allow us to choose first. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, our next speaker is Joel Frederick.
How y'all doing? All right, so 2 topics. First topic, I'll just blaze through because I got a lot to talk about. Number 1, the maintenance fence back here is brutal. It is a safety issue. It is a dangerous issue. Kids at 11 o'clock at night coming back from a baseball game have almost gotten run over. We had tennis courts full of kids with baseball players going on, and everybody has to walk down one road because we have a maintenance fence to nowhere. That needs to be fixed. Okay, great. Now, just now my personal opinion here. If you don't know me, I've been part of the planning committee on and off for 3.5 years for this new school. This started way back in I think February of 2018 for some of y'all that were there with me, right? It was a long time ago. But for my company, I've been building very large schools for 15 years. So I got lots of experience, I got lots of connections, and I just kind of want to tell you what I've been talking to them about, okay? Trying to give y'all the best advice that I can give you. First thing, we know this is coming up, don't cut corners, okay? We've cut too many corners in the past. We've cut corners on tennis courts, where others had to come in and pay to have shade put in. We don't need to do that anymore. Give them what they need. Corners were cut in the new intermediate school. And now others are being asked to pay to keep the kids safe, to keep put padding on walls so those kids don't get injured anymore. Don't cut corners. So if you're gonna do something, please do it all the way. Okay? It's also being asked of us in the intermediate school to do some other things to make the whole school as useful as it is intended. Okay? So that's my first and foremost thing. We need to change our MO of doing things part of the way and come back later on and fix it. So, second point, y'all need to hire the right architect. I don't know our current architect, I don't know anything about him. But there is a lot of hungry architects, there's a lot of hungry engineers out there in our field, in our industry, that are looking for a backlog, okay? They are looking for a long-term project. We need to be diligent on this. We need to be diligent about the architect we hire that is not just based off of a previous relationship, but the architect is based off of proof. There's plenty of schools being built around us that that proof is in the pudding out there. It's not in the resume that they're going to give you. It's going to be in the school that they built. Also, hire one that will help everyone build the school the way we need it. I mean, y'all done a ton of work getting to where we are right now, and there's probably a ton more work to do. I don't even want to know what y'all have to do. Get somebody that will build it what we need. Coaches, teachers, they all have great ideas, but they are not architects, they're not engineers, they don't know how to implement it. A great architect is going to implement everything that those administrators, those coaches need, and they're going to make it better. And it's better to have too much and then scale it back before we go to bond than not to have enough and do what we do and piece it together later. So, my last point is after the architect, hire a good owner's rep or a construction management firm. I've been involved in about 8 school builds a year. Right now, I'm involved in the 2 Comal ISD schools, Piper Ranch High School, and Davenport, we just finished up. I was involved in Church Civil stuff. Each one of those guys have owner's reps. Those owner's reps are well worth their money. They're independent owner's reps. They go there to protect you guys, to protect this district. We are too small to employ our own, or even get a current employee to do it. We have, they do not have the time or the capacity to understand the specs and the submittals that the architects and engineers are going to put out there. They also have to be able to effectively communicate to y'all. A current employee won't have the time, and like you can't be the head of maintenance. They're struggling to get stuff done as it is. whether it's work orders or coaches having to do their own thing, maintenance is booked, so it can't be them. Any other current employee in this capacity, we're also gonna run the risk of some self-interest involved. We have to have independent owner's rep to represent the best interests of this school, of y'all's decision, and of the public's vote for the fall. So y'all done a lot of work. Thankful for what y'all are doing. I know we got a long road ahead. I'm in it with you guys, but this is just what I know coming from the outside, and I thought I'd share with you. Thank you.
Thank you. Beautiful. All right. We will move on to item number 6, our discussion on TASB salary study.
We talk about this, it's easier. We have a rep from TASB who is going to walk through on a Zoom meeting. She's been on hold for a while. We appreciate the fact that she had waited so long to get involved, but we appreciate that she was basically on call for us this evening until we were ready for her. So she's going to walk you through the salary study that they've done and what the conclusions that they are, and you have in front of you a copy of the study, of her presentation. Tracy, can you hear us? No?
Tracy, can you hear?
We can hear you. Can you hear us?
I can very distantly hear you, yes. Perfect. Ready for me to go?
Yes, ma'am.
Perfect. All right. Share my screen. Alicia, I think you have to enable or let me share my screen. So it's host disabled participant screen sharing.
Right there.
Yeah, I see your screen now. It's bizarre.
Okay, go back to stop sharing. Go back to stop the red. Try it now.
Can you try it now?
Okay, sure, I'll try. Can you see that? Perfect. All right, so I'll get started. Hello, everyone. I wish I could be there with you, but I'm sure you guys heard that TASB, we are still working remotely. We're not wanting to leave a trail of COVID behind us, so that's what we're waiting on is fully vaccination or something. So I'll get started. My name is Tracy Morris. I'm an HR and compensation consultant. I work with you guys, or with the district leadership team, to conduct a full pay study review this year, including extracurricular stipends. We'll talk a bit more about that. Feel free to interrupt and ask questions as you have them. So just to talk a bit about what the process is first we collect data from the districts. We work with your leadership team to collect all employee data, and then we conduct a market pay review. So we look at comparison districts around you, and they'll show you were and how we collected all of that data. And then we match common jobs. So we conduct a survey every year of every school district in the state of Texas for about the 200 most common jobs offered in school districts. And so we have a really large data set for which to make comparisons. And then, so when we get your data, we start making comparisons of like jobs. And then finally, after we've done that, we then build models for improvement. So we identify any areas that need improvement, and give proposals of how to correct some issues that might exist, and how to give additional adjustments for employees where pay may be a little low. So I'll talk through that a bit more. So this is a listing of the market peers we use for you guys. It's kind of all your neighbors geographically. A couple of things to know: for districts that were really large, we excluded directors and above. We recognize that the job for your district is very different from the job for a director at Comal ISD. Your directors are likely doing 3 and 4 jobs, and they're not doing that many jobs at Comal ISD. And so for some of those, Comal, Hayes, and Shirts to Below, we removed directors and above. Additionally, there are a couple of districts that didn't participate in our survey, so you can see that they're included only for teachers. That's really just Comfort ISD in this list. We collected their teacher data. We were able to find that, or we can send it to us, even though they didn't participate in our survey. So they are included in the teacher market, but they're not included in any other data. So just a note there, that one, why that one's missing all the way across the additionally, we purchase non-school market data from 2 really large, reliable sources. One is called Economic Research Institute, and another is called Comp Analyst. And so we pull in non-school market for jobs that can be found outside of a school district. So while we recognize that many jobs you can only do in a school district, there are many jobs that you do have employees for whom they could go and find a job outside of the school district. So we pull in that data, and we use most of the time a combined market comparison. So we recognize that school districts can offer a culture and environment and many things that you can't find outside of a school district. And so we want to weigh those equally. So we do a combined non-school and school market value to come up with what the market value is. So just a bit about your teacher demographics. So at the time that we collected the data, you had 140 teachers on staff, and only 5% or 7 of them had no previous teaching experience. 15% had 1 to 5 years, 15% had 6 to 10 years, and 15% had 11 to 15 years. So this looks really great. This is very well distributed. This is pretty unique. We don't see this often. We see a lot of districts who have really large 1 to 5 year pieces of the pie. And so really happy to see this, honestly. You have another 15% who have 16 to 20 years. And then you've got 24% or 34 teachers who have 21 to 25 years of previous teaching experience. And then another 17 teachers who have more than 24 years of previous teaching experience. So this is 36% of your teaching staff of 21 plus years. So these teachers are likely at or near retirement eligibility. Maybe some of them started when they were 22, and so they're not quite there yet, but many of them will be close. And so the goal is that as these teachers choose to leave the profession, then we want you to be able to replace them with teachers within the pieces of the pie that you want. My guess is that it is not the goal of the district to hire all brand new to the profession, fresh out of their teaching certification program. And I'm pretty confident in that after talking to the district leadership team. So we want to be sure that you're able to compete. And right now, we have a really well-distributed group of teachers, and so we want them to stay that way. So as we looked at who did you hire this past year, so the district hired 28 new teachers to the district in 2020-2021, so for this school year. 7 of them came with no previous teaching experience. 6 came with 1 to 5 years of previous teaching experience. 3 came with 6 to 10, another 6 with 11 to 15, and another 6 with 16 plus years. So again, this says really good things about the district. This tells us you're able to attract very experienced teachers to the district. And as I understand it, you guys are a district of choice and you want to maintain that. And so this really speaks to that, I think, that you offer an environment that we want to come to. And the fact that you're able to hire teachers who have 10 years, 11 years, 20 years really is impressive. And we want to make sure that. So as we looked at what does your pay look like for teachers, and we're still talking about teachers specifically. When we look at teachers, we look at what we call benchmark years. So we look at that 0-year, 5-year, 10-year, 15-year, and 20-year teacher. So what are you paying at those levels? And so at 0 years, your district this year is paying $47,000. So this is to a teacher who's brand new, never taught before, fresh out of their certification program. And then we look at the market. And so all of those districts I showed you earlier included in your teacher market. When we look at the median value, we look at the median for a couple of reasons. One, it's not skewed by significant outliers. And really that's kind of the key point. The goal normally, unless you have some other strategy, is just to match the market. You don't necessarily want to be leading the market. You don't need to overpay, particularly for a district like you, where you are a district of choice. You just need to stay close. And so median is really where we shoot for. So the median for 0-year teachers from all of your peers is $47,900, which means you guys are paying $900 below market. Very minimal, really. And when we look at that in a percentage, you're only 2% below market. And so you're paying 98% of market value for a 0-year teacher. At 5 years, you drop to 3% below market, or $1,650. At 10 years, you're at 95% market, so 5% below. And then at 15, you come back a bit, you're at 96% market. And then finally, at 20 years, you're at 98% market. So you kind of have you're competitive, and then you have a bit of a dip, still not too far off, but then you make it come back. And so as I talked with district leadership, right, these are kind of your teachers that you want to be hiring, teachers who are in that 5 to 15-year group or more. You don't want to hire a bunch of brand new professional teachers. It's okay to hire some, you guys did that, but it takes an enormous effort to train those teachers to become fully functional. And so really 5 to 15 is kind of where we focused our energy on building new structures. So let me show you graphically. I just explained all of that. You can see you're most competitive at 0 years, and then you drop at 5, lower at 10, and then maybe come back at 15. So really the goal is to try and get closer to market in the middle range. So it's important to recognize that you guys are in just a very difficult market as it is. You are surrounded by larger districts, districts that have higher tax base, all of those things. So we wanted to just check and see where you are when we look at peers of your same size from across the state. And so in doing that, this is a new comparison. So we look at, again, you guys, your pay doesn't change, right? At 0 years, you're still paying $47,000. But the statewide market median for districts of your size, so who have a student enrollment of 1,600 to 2,999, the market median is $43,000. So you're actually paying $4,000 over market value, or over market median. And so that means it's 9% above market is the calculation there. So you're paying quite competitively at 0 years when we compare you to peers of your same size. And then at 5 years, you're 6% above. At 10 years, you're 1% above market. 15 and 20 years, you're 1% below. So this still tells us you're most competitive at 0 years, least competitive at 15 and 20 years. And so while these are not this is not a fair comparison to many when you think about who you're recruiting from, where you're trying to get teachers, right? You're trying to get teachers from your geographic region. It's unlikely that someone's going to move across the state to come be a teacher in your district. But I do think it's important to recognize that you are on the right track. You're doing the right things. You're just in a tough market. But you're still competitive with the local market. So I think that all of those are good things. So when we look at that graphically, here's what that looks like. So again, you're very competitive when we look at that statewide market at 0, 5, and 10. And then you drop just below market median at 15 and 20. But again, this tells us you're extremely competitive, doing what you have to do to survive the market that you're in. And really, our goal is to make you more competitive with that market where you're getting your applicants from. So as we look at teacher pay, a couple of other things that we look at are other teaching assignments and what districts pay. And so you guys pay some of these. You pay a master's degree stipend to teachers of $1,000 of all your peers. We have 17 peers that we're comparing you to. All of them pay a stipend for that assignment for teachers who have a master's degree. The median is $1,500. I'm not telling you to make any changes here. This really is just an FYI, so you know, you have to offer these to remain competitive. And so you guys are doing that. Secondary math is another assignment where we see this stipend pretty often. 6 of 17 of your peers offer this stipend at a market median of $3,000. You guys are paying $2,000. Again, this is nothing I'm telling you to change, simply just letting you know that you're doing the right things. Secondary science is the same. 6 of 17 peers paying this at a market median of $2,500. You guys again are paying $2,000. So pretty competitive there. One that you don't offer is bilingual, and the market median value from 8 of your peers who pay it is $4,250. So a pretty high value. So our recommendation to the district leadership is simply, if you can't hire in this area, then this is a good place to start and look at what you might have to do. But until you struggle to hire in these areas, we wouldn't recommend it. And then finally, another really commonly offered stipend is special education self-contained assignments. So these are really difficult assignments, sometimes very hard to fill. 9 of 17 of your peers are paying a stipend at a market median of $1,500. You guys are paying $2,000 for these assignments. So you're doing what you have to do to make it competitive, and you're definitely on the right track. Are there any questions about teachers? I've talked about teachers quite a lot, so I want to hear if there are any questions.
No.
Take that as a no. All right. All right, let's talk about your other job groups or your employees. So we broke it out into administrators, and then we've got professionals, and then we've got your clerical group or paraprofessionals, these are your instructional aides, and then finally we've got your auxiliary group, these are your manual trades or skilled trades. So as we look at administrators, on average, all of your administrators are paid at 92% of market or 8% below market. And we did the exact same thing that we did with teachers for this group. This is a group that you could possibly recruit someone from across the state into one of these roles. You know, if they're looking for a promotion to more of a central administration role, this is likely, it's possible. And so we wanted to see, how do you compare when you look at peers of your same size for these roles? And so I'm showing 2 comparisons here. So the second one is administrators for those statewide peers with that student enrollment of 1,600 to 2,999. And so here again, you compare more favorably than you do to your local market. And again, it just reiterates that you guys are in a tough market. You guys know that. You have to be able to compete. You're doing what you have to do to be able to do that. But just know that you're on the right track. You are competitive when you look at your peers of the same size. but it is important to keep your local market in mind. So as we look at pay structures, one of the really important parts that we look at is the midpoint. So you've got these pay ranges, and then you have a minimum, a midpoint, and maximum. And the goal is that midpoint will be aligned to market. And so when we look at your pay ranges for your administrators, on average, the midpoints are at 89% of the market, so 11% below market. So this is quite low compared to your local peers. But when we do that same comparison to your statewide peers, you're at 95% of the market. So this tells us your structure is competitive to your statewide peers of your same size, but it definitely needs some adjusting to be more competitive with your local peers. Then we look at your professional group. So on average, your professional, these are going to be like your diagnosticians, LSSPs, accountants, all of your other kind of business professionals who are not your central administration jobs, are paid at 4% below market on average, and pay range midpoints are 5% below market. So quite competitive structure. Pay as a whole is competitive, so really no big concerns here. And then we looked at your clericals, so secretaries and paraprofessionals, instructional aides, library aides, things like that, jobs like that. So on average, employees are paid 4% above market value, and your pay range midpoints are 1% below market. So really, this structure is tied closely to market. Pay is competitive for many of these high incumbent jobs. As we look at these jobs, another really important piece is to look at the minimum rate of pay. So what is that absolute minimum you would pay to someone entering one of these jobs? And that helps us define how your structure looks to the market as well. So we're looking at midpoint and minimum. And so when we look at minimum for these hourly employees, you're paying 2% above or below what market value says that they're paying. So again, you're quite competitive in this group, and pay is really competitive on average for these. And then finally, your auxiliary group. So again, skilled trades, cafeteria workers, bus drivers, electricians, jobs like that. You're paying 4% above market on average. Pay range midpoints are 1% above market, and pay range minimums are also 1% above market. So what we see here is that your non-exempt employees or your hourly employees are paid most competitively to market in the district, which is pretty unique. We typically see teachers being the most competitive, and then maybe your hourly employees. So really kudos to you guys for really paying these lowest paid employees in the district as strongly as you can. The goal is just that you will keep up with the market and be along. All right. So I mentioned that we also looked at extracurricular assignments. So this includes coaching, performing arts, and academic stipends or academic assignments. And so we look at these kind of in groups. So on average, your head coaches are paid $518 below market. And so we take, what do all your peers pay? How many days do they pay? We combine all of that and make these comparisons. So that's really quite close to market. That's very, very close. You're not overpaying in these cases. And so really, again, kudos to you guys for just really staying right with the market and what it requires. When we looked at your ninth grade coaches or JV coaches, assistant varsity coaches, you're paying on average $40 below market value. So again, really very closely tied to market. So this is as close as I've ever seen a district to market. So I can't say enough about how you guys are really stuck to what the market really is. Middle school coaches, on average, again, $40 below market. So, I mean, that's as close as you get. Performing arts, on average, paid right at $1,000 below market. There's only 4 of them that we were able to collect from you guys. You don't pay a ton of these, so that's why there's more variance here. And then finally, academics, on average, $299 below market. This is 15 jobs, 15 assignments. So really, again, very close to market for that many assignments. Okay. So as we started kind of developing what some recommendations or proposals for you to consider might be, I mean, first we have kind of realigned some of your jobs and pay grades and updated your pay structures to be competitive with market where it wasn't. So in many cases, it already was competitive with market. So we didn't make many adjustments, but in some cases we identified jobs that needed to be adjusted, and so we did that. And so our recommendation is simply that you implement the pay structures that align the market, improve internal equity. So we're making sure you have strong starting salaries. We're aligning those midpoint with market where they weren't already aligned. And then we're providing a revised extra duty stipend schedule to bring up some of those more assignments where it was below the market. But many of them were already really right on. So it's pretty minimal changes. So we're just recommending you make the changes that are necessary. Recommendation 2 would be to just adopt a general pay increase to maintain your market position. Last year was a really tough year. I'm sure you guys know, a lot of districts chose not to give increases last year. And so as we work through what districts are doing this year, we're seeing larger increases come through. And so it's really important that you recognize that the market's going to move. So it's just a matter of how much is it going to move. I can't tell you that. I can tell you that we expect it to be at least 2%. That's what it would be in a kind of a normal year, but we haven't had a normal year in, 3 years, because we had House Bill 3, COVID, now we're in year 2 of COVID, and so really we can't say what it will be, but based on all of our surveys that we are conducting, it feels like every week we're asking districts, what are you doing? And so it looks like 2% is what we're expecting it to be. So we want you to maintain your market position where you are. But you do have a couple of different options. We provided for you a 1% model, a 3% model, and then we came back and provided a 2% model, so one that's kind of in the middle. And again, that general pay increase for teachers is calculated based on the market median salary. And for all other groups, it's a general pay increase based on the proposed pay. So it's not a percent of their salary, it's based on the market or the pay structure. Okay. So if you implemented model 1, which is the 1% general pay increase, this is what your teacher pay would look like to today's market. So really important to keep that in mind. This is the same graph I showed you earlier, but now the dotted line shows you where your teacher structure would go. Remember, I talked about the goal would be to kind of close the gap there in 5, 10, and 15 years. This model doesn't do that very well. We really kind of spread pay out. You have to designate money across, from 0 to 20. And so we're not able to focus a lot of money there in this model, but it is an option. Model 2 is the 3% general pay increase. So we started with 1 and 3, and then we came back with a third model that's 2%. So a little confusing there, but model 2 being a 3% general pay increase for teachers. So your starting teacher pay will be $48,500. So you would be above today's market at 0 years. So again, if the market moves 2%, perhaps you'd be right there with it. Can't really say for sure, but that's the goal, right? And then you can see we try to make moves in 5, 10, 15, and 20. And so really just trying to spread pay out, just closer to market across the board, recognizing that line is going to move so much. And then finally, the third model being a 2% general pay increase. This is kind of where we can get you to where today's market is for 0 years at $48,000. But then again, we need to spread pay increases across 0 to 20, so we can't quite close that gap the way that we want, but this is better than the first option. So really something to consider. So beyond teacher pay, some other adjustments that we're recommending are, first of all, where we adjust the structure and we bring up your minimum pay, we certainly want to bring up everyone who might be below that. So we bring everyone to at least the minimum of their new pay grade. We provide targeted adjustments to individuals who are still lowest to market after all other increases. So if someone is still more than 10% below midpoint, which is aligned with market, and we're gonna give them an extra 1% midpoint just to push them a little closer. So that's the goal. It's just to help with the internal equity and try to bring people closer to market. Teacher pay equity adjustments are for administrative professionals, so your professional employees who are educator certified, so whose job requires them to have a teacher certification. So many of them are like your assistant principals, your principals, jobs like that. We want to make sure that as we improve the teacher pay, we recognize that career progression and make sure that they aren't earning less than what they would if they went back to the classroom as a teacher. So we are giving adjustments just to make sure that they are earning at least what a teacher is making with their same years of experience in education. And then finally, providing placement adjustments or placement scale adjustments for your auxiliary employees to just spread pay out based on experience. So we don't want to compress everyone at the bottom. So just giving adjustments to spread pay out based on experience. So valuing more experience more than those less experienced. You guys already do this, and I have to say kudos to you. It's a hard decision, and I understand that, but you guys are doing a great job, and I just want to tell you to keep doing it. You have a maximum rate of pay for every given job, and you should maintain that maximum rate of pay. And so it maintains the integrity of your structure. It maintains the distance from market you're willing to pay employees, right? There is a value for every job. And while we want to value everyone, beyond that, there is a limit. And the district has to be responsible with the funds that are given to them. And so you guys have done a great job with this. And so just keep doing it. I know that it's hard. And as we update structures, people will start getting increases again. So again, it limits the variance for people who are doing the exact same job. We don't want to keep the fancy pay beyond well beyond market value. So probably what you all really want to know is what is the cost to the district? So again, you've got 3 different models kind of to choose from. So model 1, you have 1% general pay increase. So the total cost, total additional cost beyond what you already pay for people would be $214,346. So this is the total increase, so $215,000. Model 2, which is the 3% general pay increase model, is right at $478,000. And then model 3, the 2% model, is right at $368,000. So again, just to review, you've got 215, let's say, 368, and 470. Different cost levels. Okay, I gave you a lot of information in a very short time, so I'm ready to hear questions or thoughts. None at all? Giving you time to think.
So I'll ask a question. My question is on the adjustments you're taking after the general pay increase. So that's the reason for the difference between option 1, option 2, and option 3?
Absolutely.
Would you ever keep the adjustments the same? Meaning, because you're basing it off of what they're currently getting paid, so why not just go ahead and factor that adjustment against what they're currently getting paid, which means all 3 options, the adjustment portion would not increase. However, because we typically, I think they're given about a 3% 2 or 3% increase. So when you're looking at those 2 options, it can get pretty pricey when you add the adjustments on top of it. So I was just curious if you ever look at that from a modeling standpoint where, so I'm assuming that the model one with that adjustment, the adjustments would come in a little lower than the 90,000 that's represented there if it was based off their current pay.
So it is based off their current pay. So the reason we give general pay increases first is because we want to recognize everyone's year of service the same, right? You and I did the same work this year, so we deserve the same increase. And so if we give adjustments first, and then we try and give general pay increases, it would eat into the general pay increase that they get. Does that make sense? So, and that's the reason that as you go up in the general pay increase, so like the 1% general pay increase, adjustments are 89,000. But if you look at, on average, or as a whole, or as a percentage point, the adjustments actually go down whenever you give a larger general pay increase, because they're not as needed. In this case, 1% is just so low, and you tried to make it a really affordable option. So where you're not seeing a cost here is in teachers, where in models 2 and 3, we really try to close that gap at 5, 10, 15. And so there's a bigger cost there. So we wanted to give you, like, at minimum, this is what you have to do. So typically you would see adjustments go down, but because we were really trying to give you a very cheap cost to what you need to do to close that gap, this model actually is more expensive than the adjustments. Does that make sense? So I hear what you're saying.
Net closer to a 3% increase overall, we would go with model 3 because it gives them a 2% increase plus the adjustments at 1, which is a net 3% increase. Is that fair to say?
I can't hear that completely.
Okay, so my question was in model 3, to get a net 3% increase similar to what we've typically done in the past, if we used a 2% general pay increase and then the adjustments at 1%, it's a net total of about 3% increase that the teachers would see overall. That would be a fair statement?
Yes, that is a fair statement.
Okay. Maybe I was just making it too complicated, but
No, I understand.
it just seemed,
The adjustments look higher because they were giving us a higher rate of adjustment, not because of the pay increase, but because we're giving a higher pay increase, we're making a higher rate of adjustment.
right, so that just seemed odd.
So I want to point out that the 2% to 3% is a good way to look at it. So for your clerical, paraprofessional, and auxiliary group, you can see that the 3% model, your adjustments are lower than they are for a 2%. And that's because it's working exactly like I said. They're getting more in the increase than they are in adjustments. It's just that we were so aggressive in those 2 teacher models, but the adjustments are greater in this case. And because we're being so aggressive with the teacher model, we have to also be aggressive with those educator career pathway administrators to make sure they aren't making less than what they would have given back to the classroom as a teacher. And so that's really why it's kind of doing that. So good observation. Any other questions?
Any questions? Anyone? All right.
Thank you, Tracy.
Thank you. All right, let me know if you need anything.
Yes, ma'am.
We'll move on. Item 6B, discuss changes to the COVID-19 protocols for the summer operations to include summer school activities.
All right, so as we get ready to wind up the school year, wrap it up, and start summer school, we have summer school here at the intermediate for the elementary and intermediate will be here. And then our junior high will be on junior high, high school will be on high school. We have small groups of kids and staff members. So we're coming to you tonight to see about changing the protocols for summer operations. Would include staff during the summer and our students that are going to come for summer school. And let's talk about masks. Do we want to require masks? Do we want to use this as a trial time to see how our COVID numbers work out, whether they go up, come down? A lot of the activities will be outside, but some will be inside. And so I thought we would take this opportunity to talk about what summer will look like for our staff and our students. Do you have any questions?
Do we know, have they started doing enrollment for summer school this year?
We have started doing enrollment for summer school.
Do we know what the numbers look like after they're enrolling?
You know, on your campus, elementary wise,
We're looking at 35 right now for K through 3. And then of course the staff.
right, and then I believe we have approximately 25 to 30 in the various enrichment camps that we have going on, and there's several of those, so I don't have it broken down by how many in each week. We kept it small to where there wouldn't be more than 12 in a group, and so no more than 12 in one of those. But, and then high school, I believe, has about 10.
No, we know for sure right now. We'll know more the end of this week, really,
Right.
about the future of some of these kids.
And then junior high has about 10.
Got about 10, 15 junior high kids. I will also have sixth grade credit recovery at the junior high, and that was about 12 to 15 that they had at this point. But I have 3 teachers, so we'll spread out into 3 different classrooms and rotate classrooms.
Yes, and then the high school, it is credit recovery on the computer. So they'll be an individual pod doing their computer work. Did you have something else to add?
Now, in the end, we're expecting between 25 and 30 is our first guess.
Okay.
I mean, with those numbers, we're gonna be able to do pretty good as far as social distance and keeping track and being out and about, so. And also by that time, anyone that's gonna be teaching over the summer will have had an opportunity whether they want to get the vaccine or not, so.
And as we discussed it with our staff, when they volunteered to do summer school, to teach summer school, we told them that there would be the possibility of not requiring masks for summer school. So all of our staff were aware of that and knew going in, if they volunteered to work summer school, that they would have that possibility of students not having masks and adults not having masks. So we discussed that just in case it did come about, and they were all willing to.
And will they still have strength and conditioning going on this summer as well?
Yes, sir. That'll be outside or in the weight room with big garage doors.
Yes.
Well, my opinion is the summer needs to look as much like pre-pandemic as possible. And so my recommendation would be definitely mask optional or mask not required. But I guess my question is, could we go ahead and make that effective immediately?
That's up to the board. We do have an action item later, and we can change what the action item looks like. If y'all want to discuss that, making it optional, I will tell you right now, we do have one student at the elementary that is positive. We have one student at the junior high that is positive. We have one student at the high school that's positive, and we learned of two of our school employees that are positive as of this morning. So I'm just gonna throw that out there.
As far as contact tracing for those, is there anybody quarantined other than those individual students?
Yes, we have 2 or 3 that are quarantined. Two high school students are quarantined, and
Not to do that.
okay, 2 quarantined due to close contact. Yes.
And just to clarify, the policy that the gentleman referred to regarding if one person tests positive, the whole class has to quarantine. It's my understanding that was TA's policy, not school policy. Is it school policy?
It is not a school policy. We were going with what CDC and TEA gave us. And right now, it's within 6 feet. So if you have someone that is positive, then we go around, and if it's within 6 feet, they would quarantine.
Okay. Were they unmasked? Because I thought they weren't supposed to quarantine unless.
If they're unmasked.
Okay, so people in quarantine that were unmasked and.
No. Yes, they were at lunch. Our quarantines were at lunch, so yes.
One was at lunch and one other was in another situation.
Okay. Yes. So they were unmasked. But I do know as far as vaccinations, Pfizer is able to give, I believe it's 16 and older.
15.
Pfizer or Moderna one?
15.
Okay, and then Moderna is still 18. They are still looking at lowering that to 12 years old, I believe. That will start soon, once they get that going. We are advertising it when we hear about it. I know Shirts was offering the Pfizer, so we were making sure that we were advertising that they could go to Pfizer, to Shirts to do the Pfizer if they were at that age. So we are still advertising those when we hear about them.
I definitely want the summer to be optional plans that we can find with the government police and get behind the data, giving our staff enough time to get the vaccine if they want them. They got one that's their choice and most wants them. But we were trying to be, when we make these decisions, we were trying to be conscious of our staff members. So we were giving them the time. When we first decided to keep the masks on, we were giving them that 2-month time plus the time to activate. Then at the last meeting, we went ahead and like optional masks outside, and it gave them a little bit more time. And now at this time, with the government releasing, and the CDC is saying, and the big box stores doing it, I'm ready to go and optional masks over here. And I,
Any more comments? We can get to that point when we propose a motion, then we can, if we need to change what's, the suggested motion, we can do that. Any other comments? If not, we will move on. Item number 16.
All right.
That is that.
So I have on here to discuss adding 3 staff. I'm not asking you to do it tonight, but I want to discuss it. 2 of those staff members being SPED related. Right now, we've talked all year long about the COVID slide and how kids have been out, and when they're coming back to us, they are lower. A lot of the students have not gained ground when they come back. We currently have 236 SPED students, and we have several referrals still in the works. We have some students at the elementary level that are discipline is a huge area there. So they are discipline issues and in special ed as well. We are looking at all of special ed, the umbrella from 504, dyslexia, special ed, functional resource inclusion. We are having an audit done of the entire special ed program. And so I'm waiting on the audit information to come back, which will probably be mid-June. They are looking at our FTEs, looking at our student ratios, trying to see where best would fit staff and if we need more staff. However, I know that we have a special circumstance at the elementary right now with special ed and a couple of behavior students. I know that I have spoken with dyslexia and their concerns about their students. And I will be very honest and tell you, our junior high special ed teacher, I never hear anything from her, but when I pull her in and we talk, and I know that her numbers are high, she has approximately 40 some odd students that she services. She has all of the monitoring and paperwork with that, and she never complains. However, knowing that next year, we are most likely going to have that influx of more students that are going to need that extra little push, that extra attention. Adding someone at the junior high would benefit our entire program. So I'm just talking to you about it tonight so that you're aware of it, so you have that in your mind. Once we get a better idea of where our staff needs to be, I will come back and ask for those teachers. But I wanted to bring it to your attention. We've been talking about special ed and students qualifying for SPED all year long. They are definitely, we're getting calls almost on a daily basis of what services do you offer? My child's going to be coming. Let's sit down and do a staffing and talk about it. And so as those records start coming in, they are mainly at the elementary grade levels. And so as we start looking at that, I wanted you to be aware of it and have that discussion. So I'm gonna stop right there if y'all want to talk about SPED, and then I'll move on to the other one. Any questions on that? Okay. So then the other one that I wanted to talk about, bring to your attention is we added some dual credit courses, and we have added two PE courses at the intermediate, the pre-athletics courses. And so with those, we're going to need someone to teach those courses. We also have a need for adaptive PE and having someone that understands adaptive PE. We do have someone, but freeing them up to go into the adaptive PE class and work alongside. Adaptive PE isn't, my kids come over here for PE and then adaptive PE is over here. It literally means inside the PE classroom, working alongside our regular ed kids and not making the regular ed kids do that PE course. So our adaptive PE right now is not strong. It has a lot of weak areas, and we've been doing some training. We had a big training day for adaptive PE, and the freeze got in the way of that one. So we will begin again with doing some more training, but we need someone that can go in and dedicate their time. We have someone, they just aren't free. So if we add a position at the high school that can do the dual credit courses, the PE, pre-athletic courses, and then they would free up someone else to do the adaptive PE class. So it would be a full day schedule for them. Mr. Scarborough and I have talked about needing more in the PE classes at the high school as well, so, and junior high, so we would make it a full-time, full-day position. Any questions on that one?
Dual credit, do you have to be certified in dual credit?
No, they do not. Yes, the online, now let me refresh, It's the online dual credit courses. They do not have to have the degree to do the online dual credit courses. They're monitoring those courses because they're online. The regular in-class dual credit, yes, they do.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify that.
Yes, so
They're
glad you,
not monitoring, they don't need a special degree for it because they're not actually teaching the dual credit classes, you want them to take it online.
correct. They will monitor, make sure, my idea of monitoring, and I think Mr. Scarborough and I have talked about this, it's not just sitting back reading the newspaper while they're working on the computer. It's making sure they have their assignments turned in, making sure that they are on target, making sure they're doing their work. True monitoring.
On the position that's gonna include the adaptive PE, is that gonna satisfy, I know we just had some legislative updates coming down the pipeline on that. Is that gonna satisfy what those requirements are?
Yes, it will satisfy everything that we must get done. And we know that adaptive PE is being looked at across the state, so yes. It is a very much, we could make it a full-time position with our number of students that we're working with this position to free up. Any other questions?
We can move on to the report.
Okay. We have the,
Yeah, the second report.
we have the budget.
Well, I'm sorry, yeah, we got 16, I'm already ahead of it.
I'm sorry.
I gotta sit here and read.
All right. I'm going to turn this over to Mr. Newhoff, who has done some of the budgeting. I know y'all have been dying to see this. I will preface it by telling you it's not ready for you to see fully. We are going slow. I know by now you have seen, you are ready to give raises, and I understand that. And I'll apologize to every teacher and every staff member in the district. However, with the legislative session and the unknowns about some of the funding, with the ESSER funding, and Paul's going to talk about that in a second, we're not ready to ask you to vote tonight on a raise. We want you to be able to see the information. Paul's been crunching numbers and putting it all together for us, but I'm going to turn it over to Paul.
And I'm gonna talk about math, because I do not talk well.
And talk loud.
I can talk loud. Can you hear me? Yes. All right. Part of the reason one of the things that this is updated for, that a serious update with them with this is, I did get preliminary values from the appraisal district. And I don't know if you remember when I think when I put it on there originally, it was, I think it was about $1 something for the tax rate for the M&O rate. That's dropped down to like 0.9594 now, because property values came in, I want to say approximately 12% higher than what they had been. Now that's going to come down some as we go through protests and other things, and I tried to take that into account as I've come to the numbers. But that 0.9594 for the M&O rate is actually lower than the state. We're actually remember HB3 forced us to compress our tax rates down. We're actually having to, because property values went up so much, we're actually compressing down a little further for next year, if they hold as where they're holding. So that's even a larger compressed rate. The other thing that is a big plus as we start thinking about the bond issue for the future is that we really lower the interest and sinking fund rate. In fact, if you look on page 4 of that, what you'll see is I highlighted in orange there what the tax rates were for 2021 and 2021-22, what they might be based now. And at the bottom, you will see we go from 0.24 to 0.184 on INS, and overall we go from 1.2623 to 1.14. So those are significant drops, but that 0.184 means that we have a larger borrowing power as we get closer to a bond issue for what may be necessary for a high school. So that's really important at that point. Back to page 1. Looking at this year, I've tried to factor in where we've lost state aid because of course, kids not being here. I've added in where we've gotten additional revenue as we've gone this year. And then taking off what we've got as budget savings. Those budget savings have come from the fact that we shifted expenditures that were funded with some of the federal dollars that came in for either the county is the largest chunk of that, but some other federal dollars that we've gotten related to the COVID funding. Then next year, looking forward, that budget's based on the revenue we would expect to come in from the tax rate and from the state money. I put in a 3% overall, just an average 3% increase, which is pretty close to the numbers we looked at tonight on one area. We're assuming we're going to try to drop expenses by about 5% overall everywhere else. So that overall we would still end up with a deficit, but a very small, much smaller deficit than where we started last year. Now, hopefully we will, the big unknown factor here is the ESSER, what's being referred to as the ESSER 3 funding. Right now, our funding for ESSER 3 on TEA's website is listed at $1 million. A little over $1 million, $1,050,000. But they're also telling us you need to spread it out over 3 years. There's part of the reason we really can't make many decisions is we're still finding out what we can pay for, what it can be used for. And there's even some talk about them telling us we have to set aside fund balance if we do something with some of that ESSER money. So it's a very kind of fluid situation until the legislature gets done. And then we can start making some decisions about what we can and can't do. If there's some one-time expenditures, such as for technology and other things that we can shift over to ESSER, then that will, of course, free up those dollars in that local budget. So
and that's changing daily. Every day we get something new. We're watching more Zoom meetings this week and last week than we have ever watched.
TEA is having basically a Q&A on ESSER 3. They had one today that I watched. There's another one on Wednesday. And I mean, they're constantly updating a frequently asked questions. But in fact, the one I was watching today, Corey Green said, that somebody asked him, are you going to put all these questions that you're answering online on the FAQs? He said, no, can't keep up with it. That's how many things are changing and how fast they're changing on that. So we're just trying to monitor it and keep up with it. And then hopefully when we get there in June, or when we get there, when the legislature's out, we'll have some better ideas of what we can do in June. Give us a little time. So it may be July when we finally come up with where we want to be. But by then too, we'll have property values as well. So we're going to try to keep you up to date and keep you up to date with as much as we can, as fast as we can. But this is one of those really, really fluid situations, and because of all those federal dollars and because the states is what we can see. One thing that this does show, as you look out over the next 5 years, especially with the general fund, is that raises in the future are going to largely depend on whether or not the state is going to put more money back into the system. That, or they're going to let us keep more of our tax dollars. One or the other. They're going to have to do something to revise that system, because as it is now, it's going to be tougher and tougher to do as we go in the future. The child nutrition budget, which is the second page, holds very steady. The interest and sinking, and part of that projected for this year, Carlette has done, as we talked, Carlette's accolades a little earlier, but she's done a remarkable job trying to keep it on keel this year in a very tough situation. And next year, hopefully, it will be with the new funding that they're allowing. It'll help immensely in terms of getting them back on track.
And I'll tell you too that, not that we're supposed to make money, but this next year, offering free breakfast, free lunch, we will actually benefit and add more money in than what you see. So it's a plus.
They always look to reasonable.
Yes.
And then if we have too much, then we have to tell them a plan how we're gonna spend it. So it's a lose-lose, it's a win-lose, but at least it's on the plus side. And there's not a whole lot of, there's a lot of child nutrition programs that do not operate in the black.
Yeah.
And the goal is you don't want to have too much, but at least if you can break even, which they've always done here, it's a remarkable achievement, always. And interest in sinking, of course, obviously just the big thing is seeing where the tax rate holds. And this year it has a big drop, and then it just depends on, where those values go for the next few years. But that's gonna hold steady going down a little bit. I got only a 4% increase, but I don't really believe that it's only gonna be a 4% increase after this year. And as long as the building stays strong. So this is kind of preliminary where we're at, where we keep moving. Again, as we get closer and we get a little more solid numbers, you will have those solid numbers. So are there any questions?
I think you've done a great job trying to estimate it at this point.
Yeah, it's, I mean, the legislature, you read it, that's come through, it's crazy.
And that doesn't even, there's still ESSER 2.
Yes.
That they haven't even decided what they're going to do with it, which is about, I think when I looked at that allocation, that's around 450,000, something like that. So that's not even factored in yet, because they really have not decided how they want to let us have that money.
And I'll tell you, the ESSER 3 is based off of your economically disadvantaged students. So when you see like Seguin got what, 13 million?
13 million.
It's based off that. So yes, we didn't get as much because our numbers are low with economically disadvantaged. So that is why, that's the disparity in the different districts. So when you start hearing about somebody got a whole lot more, that's why it's based off of that. So as we move forward with the ESSER Part 2, what you will hear with ESSER 3 part, we have to have, I'm going to build a survey. We have to have input from various stakeholders, as many different types of stakeholders as we can get. So we're going to send a survey out to all of our parents. We're also going to send it to our community. We'll put it on Facebook and let any community member that wants to take the survey, take the survey. Then we have to have several different types of meetings. We're still trying to find out if the survey covers those meetings, or if we have to have another meeting. Can it be a Facebook Live meeting, or does it have to be a in-person meeting? Since they sprung all this on us last week with some of the guidelines, getting it all together before school ends is a little bit hard. So we're kind of paddling as fast as we can and trying to get all the information together on things that we can spend it on, can't spend it on. So once all that comes out, you're going to be hearing more about it. Any questions about the budget before we move forward? Thank you, Paul.
All right, now we move to the reports. Campus activity reports.
You had your activity or reports there from all the different departments. Did y'all have any questions on any of those?
Again, I appreciate that. Really nice.
We will continue with that.
If no questions on that, we will go into the superintendent's report.
All right, so under resignations, that's not the whole list because we added some today. So I'm going to read to you the list of our resignations. We have Corey Block, who is a kindergarten teacher at the elementary school. She has been here since 2013, and she is leaving to go to another district. They're moving. And then we have Ryan Buell, who is the history teacher, coach, junior high, at the junior high school. He's been here since 2019, and he is leaving. I believe he took another job as well. We have Joshua Fales, who is the math teacher at the high school. He was employed since 2013, and he is resigning as well. Taking another job.
Another location they've been trying to do.
Yes. Then we have Rocky Harris, who is one of our band teachers. He's at the high school. He has been here since 2020. Done a great job. He is moving, I believe, back to Big Spring. Then we have William Hudspeth, who is a history teacher, coach at the junior high. Been employed since 2018, and he has resigned as well. John Odell, biology teacher, coach, high school. He's been here since 2015. He is resigning. Tyler Renfro, math teacher at the high school. Been employed since August of 2020. He is resigning. Heather Walker, special ed teacher at the elementary school. Been here since August of 2017, and she is resigning. And then Charlene Wolfong, first grade teacher at the elementary school, has been here since 2010, and she is resigning as well. So, we have some great teachers leaving. We're going to be opening them up and interviewing and finding some great teachers to come in as well. So, moving to enrollment. Our April enrollment, we are, so overall from the 1920 school year to now, we had 1936 in 1920, and we're at 1859 for the 2021 school year. This is the month of April. And I will tell you that I have been talking to several different families. I think I counted about 12 that are bringing their kids here next year. It averages out to about 19 students that I know will be enrolling next year. They're finishing out their school year in other places that have already bought houses and are living in our district. And so I know of those families that are coming in. I've been having conversations with them. I know that Mr. Morales has been having several conversations with people about they have contracts on houses, what do they need to do next and next steps. So the anticipation of us being over where we were in the 1920 school year is definitely, I believe, foreseeable that we will be above where we were in 1920.
What did the kindergarten roundup look like? 50 students who registered in kindergarten, and then we had another 13 in pre-K involved. So on a typical year, we have about 125 kindergarten students, so we're anticipating at that number.
Yes. And one of the things that we have done for enrollment to help us predict what our enrollment will be is we've opened it up to currently enrolled students can go ahead and start the enrollment process, except for doing the residency piece. They can go ahead and start that. And then we will have 2 different times that we will do enrollment for outside, so we can start getting them in. And so we're setting those dates. We'll get those advertised so that people can go ahead and start coming in that are moving in. And then we'll do our residency in late July, early August, so that we have that set as well.
From the parent point of view, I like that early registration for the students.
Good. So enrollment is still down, but it's coming up. Exciting.
I have heard a couple of rumblings, and this is more for Ms. Morales, I guess, for residency. I've heard a couple of rumblings back and forth of how we're handling the new housing developments. You know, people sign a contract. When are we allowing them to come to the district? As far as if they sign their contract or their house.
Now, a couple of things happen with that, because when I read those contracts, it says, hey, so-and-so's bought a home in, Woodside Farms. Okay, and they said, we have 2 years to complete that assignment, to complete that house. but it doesn't give me a start date, or whether the house is currently being built, or is that house gonna be built, start next January. So I have to require them to give me a letter. And that's what I do, I said, you gotta go where you're building, you gotta tell me that this house has been started and the estimated completion date. And once that completion date is within the semester, that first semester, then we'll let them in. If you go past that semester, wait till next year. And then that's what we'll do. But it's with all these new subdivisions coming in, you know, some of them are up and some of them are not. And
Oh, I'm sure we're gonna get a lot of, people coming, wanting to come to school way early, and their house hasn't even been started yet.
And I think it's fair that within that first semester, you know, or some of them, like the one I just spoke to a lady yesterday, I believe it was, or last week, that, you know, and we've been going back and forth, but her house has started and it's gonna be done in September. Okay, so I'm gonna let you in because I don't want, especially a kindergartner, to be changing schools, you know, building those relationships, but I have to have a little more specific. And some folks will grumble about that.
Oh, they will.
Okay, and I'll deal
And
with
there
the
are
grumble, ain't no
some,
problem.
we talked about the contract being 2 years out, and we're going, we've got to come up with some sort of idea, so as Luke has been handling it, he's like, this is how we're gonna work this deal, if it's gonna be completed, we need a completion date, we need a start date also. And so, because, as Paul and I drove around, we saw lots of, housing that, are just lots, and they've already been sold lots, that there's no idea when they're gonna start those houses. And so, I know that Sakina's been backed up on getting them, the permits that they need to get started, and some of the parents have come in and said that, you know, we've been waiting on a permit, we've been waiting for 3 months. I'm sorry. So we're cognizant of the families that are trying to move in, but we're trying to make sure that they are our children as well.
That's all.
Sometimes I will go check to see if there's slabs. They
They
get a little upset with me.
Sometimes it worries me because I drive through these new neighborhoods all the time, and I'll see for rent, 3 houses in a row, and I'm thinking, well, those 3 houses in a row for rent, probably one person probably bought those 3 houses. I rented them all out, and I'm real worried that, hey, I just bought 3 homes in this neighborhood, and I'm gonna put my address on one of them so my kids can go there. But I'm not gonna live in any of those 3 houses.
But if we get that kind of stuff, we're not gonna do it. But and as a matter of fact, you're right on target. I had a guy from about 2 of them at the Borough Oaks, and he's already rented them out. So I've got that. So they're here. So that was his whole purpose. Is I want to rent them out. My kids don't. He didn't have any kids, but he bought them and he rents them out too.
And we'll continue to make home visits as necessary to, if you're something, we've done that this year.
I just know it's gonna come hard.
It is, and we're trying to stay on top of it, and that's one of the reasons for opening up registration early.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so safety and security update. I know fencing has been a hot topic lately. So let me just remind y'all that this fencing was put into motion prior to June of 2020. So that was put into motion. There was a grant that was done, and the grant has to be spent before May, the end of May. So we went ahead with the plans for the fencing. I know there are some things that we are working out, and Robbie and I have talked about various things. The one thing that I will remind everybody is either we focus on safety and security or we focus on convenience. And you know, I know there's a fine line between those two, but parking in and around the baseball fields is kind of convenient, whereas we're trying to get all of our equipment and fence it in and keep it in a safe, contained area, especially at night with our trailers. Those trailers can disappear. So can our tractor parts, and we've talked about the maintenance shop being out there in the middle of the baseball, softball fields. I don't know why it's there, and then I learned it was there first, then came the baseball, softball fields. So, you know, looking at future plans, we know we have to update softball fields, we know we have to update the baseball fields. Can we move maintenance? We talked about that, where that would go, what it would look like. We are talking about it. We are aware that there are some inconveniences with the fencing. It was brought to our attention about the fencing at the high school and how the gate wasn't open, should have been opened every day after it went in. We took care of that as soon as we learned about it, make sure it's open before school, make sure it's open right before school lets out. So I think that has been alleviated as a problem, but we did address it when we learned about it. It's working through some of these little things. Yes, it should have waited until after baseball, softball season or after high school got out, but again, the money had to be spent, and part of that grant, you have to show that it's been completed, so the project has to be done for that grant to be, for us to draw that money down and be eligible to use that grant money. So the timing is off, I understand that, and I do apologize for the inconveniences, but we were doing the best we could with safety and security. Now, I did make notes about some of the comments tonight, and I will look into, is that a danger of what's going on there in the evenings at night with the baseball fields and our kids. We will look into that. I appreciate anybody's feedback. We're doing the best we can with safety and security. And on that note as well, we did order, I believe, 10 vape sensors that we will be putting up across district areas. So those will be going in and hopefully before school's out as well, so that we can test them out. But we got a really good deal on them, and so we purchased 10 of those. Any questions on safety and security?
The largest, and I don't want to beat a dead horse about the fences. The largest complaint I heard is actually from my daughter. Now that the fence is there, the gate isn't open, is how they were being able to get from the high school gym to the event center. Because they could go out of the door, but then they couldn't go back in the door. They're having to go out into the parking lot to go back into the door. Originally, I don't know how it's changed, but they weren't able to use the card readers to go in the door, and she said she's still not. She was having to walk around, she was having to go out to the high school from changing in the locker room to go around the event center to come back in the back door.
And we'll check the card readers, because we do have swap readers there at the high school.
And she said she's been able, or if they're not, her, she doesn't have access. And she said everybody with her doesn't have access either. So she can't go out one door and right back in the other. Even on the other side of the fence, they're having to go either out into the parking lot and around, which there's the safety parking lot. And then they're having to walk all the way around the building, which between classes and time, that just, they're not time to do that.
It's designed for the student not to leave the gate. They should be able to use their swipe card to get in from the event center and access the event center with the event center door be open behind the gate. We're trying to keep the exterior door that is on the east end locked at all times.
Yeah,
so everyone's accessing the event center from
That's what
the
she
parking
said.
lot.
But she said when the first fence was first put up, I don't know what it stands now, they didn't ask her today. But she said when they would come out from the locker room in the high school, they couldn't go right back in to the event center, they had to go all the way around the event center.
And it shouldn't be like that.
Right.
I'll check the credentials on the cards. The student should have any issues walking to the event center and walking right back into the swipe card. And ultimately, the bigger picture and goal is to get swipe card access into the event center as well. So that's what we're trying to work with our vendor. And so it'll alleviate them having to go through a door that is locked or unlocked to use the swipe card to get in and gain access. Well, I'll definitely look at
That was the original complaint that she had. She wasn't necessarily, yes, it's inconvenient in the afternoon when the fence was closed to get to the parking lot because they're so worried about getting out before elementary because the road gets crowded. She says, I'm still sitting here, and she's texting me, I'm still sitting here in the parking lot. You know what? You're 17 years old. Sit in your car and listen to radio. I don't tell her that, but that's what it is.
But we appreciate the feedback, so we
But it
will.
was really the access behind the fence that she was most worried about. The time between, athletics and changing and everything, she wasn't able to do it in time. She'd have to rush.
Okay,
That makes sense.
we can check on that between Clay and Robbie. We'll look at that one. Made a note to it. Thank you. All right. Any other questions about safety and security? Okay, TASB SLI, y'all, we won the lottery, yay! I know y'all are so excited, and I think Monica sent you the list. So if you will get those back to her, they have not opened housing yet. Once they do, we will get that information and get you registered for housing. But we will get to attend in person, so that's awesome. That's great. We were one of the lucky schools. End of the year breakfast. It's going to be May 28th, and we are going to have it outside just like we did last year at the stadium. And it will begin at 8:30. We will utilize the visitor side just like we had done last year. So, and we will be serving breakfast to staff, juice. I don't think we're doing juice. We're doing water and coffee. And all of you are invited to come. We'll do some awards. We'll recognize all of our years of service in increments of 5, and we will also recognize our retirees. And a couple of other things that we're going to recognize as well. So we're going to try to make it fun. The end of the year of COVID is gone, so we're going to try to make that fun. And then graduation is that same day. Graduation will begin at 8. That's Friday night. We would like to have the board members there by probably 7:15. We'll take pictures like we did last year and every year before that. We'll do a group photo. I have had Robbie working on the stage, and it will be large enough for all of us to be able to sit on the stage. So, any questions about graduation or breakfast? Parking for graduation.
Last year we brought, because we had, everybody had to get screened to come in, so.
We will have tickets again this year. All board members will get a ticket. Y'all will have tickets. Each parent is getting 12 tickets. Each student's getting 12 tickets for them, and we will have tickets for you as well. We'll get those to you.
Didn't we have them out there that talked about a gate? No.
Yes, they were coming. We will have parking for you coming off.
That's really hard.
For you, you have a bigger part.
Exactly.
And we're getting all the information out to our seniors to share with their parents. So parents, if you're listening, check with your senior child so you
Should
know
go out
where to
tomorrow. We did another proofreading, all those notes that I shared with you. Should go out tomorrow.
sit. Okay, all that information is going out tomorrow to senior parents so that, or to seniors, to get out to senior parents so that they know where to sit, what best side to sit on for their child. We're trying to make it easy for them to be able to see their child as they come out and come across the stage. So doing things a little bit different this year. We'll be giving diplomas from both sides of the stage. We'll split halfway through and do the other side. So yes, it's going to be great so parents can sit on the appropriate side and see their child exit. Exciting, we're changing little things up just a tad, having staff sit along the track instead of behind where the speakers are, so that they can actually see and, high five the child or, tell them good job as they come off the stage. So trying to get faculty involved as well.
No fireworks this year, I guess.
I have not heard about any fireworks.
Those are awesome, well, that's cute.
It really was awesome.
That
was furnished by senior parents, not by the school.
No, that's
so-
right, I mean, that was the project graduation, it was awesome.
It was. We're looking forward to a great graduation. And then you have your calendar of events. Any questions on the calendar? It's a little bit full. We do have, I will say, this week we have baseball in the playoffs, the regional quarterfinals. There you go. Thank you. They play at 4:30 on Thursday, 4:30 on Friday, and should we need a third game, 4:30 on Saturday? Yes, it does. interrupt Mamma Mia and a couple of other things going on. I'm sorry. We are going to dismiss early on Friday. If you got that call, we're going to dismiss early so that we can get some kids out and be able to go to at least the Friday game. We didn't do it Thursday, but decided on Friday we would do that just to kind of get everybody able to go to San Antonio to the game.
What's the award ceremony gonna look like on Wednesday?
You want to speak about the award ceremony on
Look
Wednesday?
like, is that what you asked?
Yeah, I was just kind of curious. I know things have changed. from
Yeah,
years
no food, in the event center, we're gonna use the floor for seating so we can have a little more room, get more people in there. Picture really like an award ceremony.
Okay.
I think, they worked out between Ms. Hanson and Mr. Gary, who someone's gonna read the names, Ms. Gates has been in the program together, focusing on, scholarships, awards, kids come across the stage, everyone cheer for them, and we're trying to keep that moving, so. A little tighter, a little shorter, but we wanted to at least do something this year, and try to get back to some of that.
I appreciate it. I mean, I think that's probably one of the most important events of the year for the city.
Will that be streamed live too?
No.
And we do have lots of field trips going on across the district, trying to open up as many activities as we could for students to end the year on a high note.
Students, we are being careful with who's all coming, so the students are getting their notifications tomorrow if they're getting something. Or if they may have gone out this evening, if they're getting something, that gives them information on who all can come and stuff like that. There should be room with board members, y'all wanna be there too. But that information may be in their hands for the first thing in the morning, in this case, there's more about that.
Thank you. Any questions about calendar events? Lots going on, just pick a day.
I thought I saw this on one of our Facebook pages, but is there a ceremony tomorrow for the kids that are signing to go to tech school?
I can answer. Yes, at 9:45, Mr. EDC will be here.
Okay.
And the event center.
Okay.
Yes, and then Friday, we're also doing a senior walk as well, so our kids that are graduating are gonna walk all the halls.
Which is fun.
We're excited about
It looks nice.
That
but
should
yes.
we will start walking around 8:30ish. We're gonna take our graduation picture first. And as long as that goes well, we'll start the hike down, so right here. Walk back.
Yes, and we decided the newspaper to come out and get some photos of that.
I know the little kids like it. All of them like it.
Yes,
They get into it.
they do. It's exciting for them to be able to see the picture.
A few teachers get teary eyed, so.
All right. And the district financials you have there.
Any questions on those? If not, we will move on to our consent agenda. On the consent agenda, we have minutes of the regular meeting, April 19th, 2021. Designated donation of $15,376 from the Madero Athletic Booster Club, and a designated donation of $49,784.82 from the Madero Campus Crossing Booster Club. Anybody need to remove anything? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I make a motion that the board approve the consent agenda as presented.
Got a motion by Donna Dillon, second by Cook Shine, any discussion? Hearing none, proceed to vote, all those in favor? Those opposed, motion passes 6-0. Moving on to our action items, item number 9A is consider changes to COVID-19 protocols for summer operations to include summer school activities.
All right. So this went out before the CDC changed all theirs. So it was written as asking the board trustees to approve changes to the COVID-19 protocols for summer operations to include summer school activities and to have face coverings be optional inside the school buildings as well as outside the school buildings.
So if we would want to make any changes to that, now is the time to change the verbiage.
So if we want to make it, immediate, we would just change it to say COVID-19 protocols starting immediately.
I would say, face coverings would be optional inside all school buildings and outside extracurricular activities, beginning effective May, what's tomorrow? 18th.
Well, you want to change it, something to the effect of the board of trustees approve changes to COVID-19 protocols effective May
That's what I was thinking.
18th,
I would change it there.
to include and then go to it.
Yes, sorry.
If you want to make a motion to that, we can. If not, I'll make one more.
Okay, I'll make a motion that the Board of Trustees approve changes to the COVID-19 protocols effective May 18th to include face coverings will be optional, not required inside all school buildings and outside of extracurricular activities starting tomorrow, May 18th, including school and all other activities.
I think you got it.
A little bit of everything.
So, all right, we got a motion by Renee Rayfield, a second by Hank Bieber, any discussion? Hearing none, proceed to vote, all those in favor? Those opposed, the motion passes 6-0. Item number 9B is considered the 2021-2022 tuition for transfer students.
We have one that's grandfathered in. She will be, I believe, a freshman this coming year.
Yep.
And, actually, it's gonna go down. So we are asking that the Board of Trustees approve the 21-22 transfer tuition fee of $5,200 for the one grandfathered, student. And below, you'll see how we came up with that information. Paul did a really good job of going back and looking at past and present tuition.
And basically, it's going down because of HB3 and the increase in the state funding, so, because you're only able to recover local dollars.
We didn't want to hold the minutes in there, so. All right, I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion that the Board of Trustees approve the 2021-2022 transfer tuition fee of $5,200 for the remaining one grandfather tuition payment.
Got a motion by Coach Shaw, a second by Donald Gilliam, any discussion? Hearing none, proceed to vote, all those in favor, those opposed, the motion passes 6-0. Item number 9C, consider purchase of library furniture and renovation at the elementary.
All right, so, we're coming to you tonight to ask you for approval to, purchase library furniture and renovate the elementary library. We talked about waiting for a possible bond, but, the elementary is so eager and they want to change up the elementary to make it more user-friendly. Of all the 4 campuses, I would say that the elementary gets the most usage out of their library with students coming in, having activities in there. It is not modern and inviting if you haven't been in lately. It is cramped and it's real hard to do any of the new innovative things like makerspace, having reading groups, having clubs, kids coming in and just sitting and being comfortable, having story time. It's just not conducive to any of that. So, we sat down with Laurel, talked about what that would look like, what the plan was. And our junior high and high school got new furniture this year. I believe the intermediate got year before. So it was their turn to be up for furniture. Not a lot of money was put toward that furniture, about $20,000. So Laurel came up with a plan to take the shelves out, put them out, get shelving that has casters on them so they can be moved and realigned as we need it to. They have really cool, innovative seating. So my question to her was, where is this money coming from? And the librarian has been stashing away money as she had book sales or any opportunity she had to get a little bit of money. She put it away, didn't spend it. So she's been stashing this money away. And then Laurel had some money in her furniture budget as well that was not used this year due to COVID, and we were going to replace cafeteria tables and decided that that could wait. So Laurel would like to take all of that and put it into the elementary remodel. It's money that we already have budgeted for, so it wouldn't come out of fund balance at all.
The way this reads, this is the full amount for the purchase of the furniture.
Yes.
What renovations are we doing and how are we paying for that?
Okay. I forgot, we didn't put the other one because it wasn't over the amount. We are going to, what we learned was when we did the high school this year, they wanted to move the shelves. And we learned that the carpet is faded underneath those, or it's a different color. The carpet around it's faded, under there it's all new. And so as they begin to move, they are going to need to replace the carpet. And so that's part of the renovation. The shelving is bolted into the walls, so we're gonna need some drywall as well. Some tape and bedding and drywall, and you know that better than I do. Just minor construction, things like that. And then we want to be able to paint it a pretty color, and so it's not so drab.
Okay, that was my question, because we're just approving the furniture buy, because everything else is such small amount.
Yes.
That's what.
Did I miss anything?
Electrical.
Oh, I'm sorry, they are gonna move some electrical pieces around as well as poles that are in the way.
Well, so all the shelving is along the walls, there's no electrical on the walls currently. So, you know, we'll get the wall, you don't have electrical there. So we're gonna do some drop down or inside the wall, we're gonna have some more. And we're gonna do some tweaking on some lighting, put them on multiple stages of switches so that way you can turn off one section instead of having them all in one switch. It's just some minor electrical repairs.
But in retrospect, it's minor renovations, it's nothing major that we're not worried about a large dollar amount. That's what I'm concerned with.
Very inexpensive. I think carpet was like 10,000.
That's great.
And again, it's all coming out of pre-planned budget. We're just moving it from one budget piece to another.
All right, any other questions? If none, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move that the board of trustees approve the purchase of the library furniture for the elementary school library for South Texas school furniture at Live Word vendor in the amount of $52,125.
A motion by Hank Peter, second by Donnie Buell. Any discussion? Hearing none, proceed to vote. All those in favor, those opposed, the motion passes 6-0. Item number 9D is consider renewal of professional annual auditing services 2021 with one possible 1-year extension.
Hard to say, the mouthful. Okay, so we currently use Armstrong, Vaughn and Associates, and we would like to continue using them. So we're asking the board to approve another 1 year, services, and then that would leave us with 1 more year of extension for the 2022 school year. So we're actually asking for right now 1 year, 2021 fiscal year, and then we will have an extension for the 2022 fiscal year. And the fees did go up just a little.
The fees that are listed are actually, if you remember, we did a 3-year bid. This is the same, this is the fees for those that 3-year process. It's the agreed upon, it's what they submitted for that second year. No, there's been no change.
All right, any questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I make a motion that the Board of Trustees approve the renewal of the firm of Armstrong Braun and Associates PC certified public accountants for professional annual auditing services for fiscal year ending August 31st, 2021, with one possible one-year extension.
I'll second.
Got a motion by Renee Rakefield, second by Clint Shy, any discussion? Hearing none, proceed to vote, all those in favor? Those opposed, the motion passes 6-0. Item number 9E, consider facilities maintenance, service, and supplies vendor list.
Okay, so this is one that you approve every year. We're asking you to approve the vendor list for the 21-22 school year. We use the proposed board-approved vendor list. Using this list will expedite services and allow the facilities and maintenance operations to quickly compare prices and use someone that is on that list that quotes up to $25,000. Anything over that, we will bring to the board, that using the list that you approved prior would make it move faster.
Any questions? Now, entertain a motion.
I move that the board of trustees approve the list of vendors that presented to the facilities maintenance, service, and supplies for the 2021-2022 school year.
Got a motion by Hank Hughes, second by Don Gilman. Any discussion? Hearing none, proceed to vote. All those in favor? Those opposed, the motion passes 6-0. Item number 9F, consider our MOU with ESC 13 for Reading Academy.
All right, so House Bill 3 requires that all principals and teachers who pay for 3 receive training on the Reading Academies. We are extending that to some of the 4th grade teachers as well, because we feel like it's important that they have those strategies moving into the 4th grade. Region 13 is offering some blended and comprehensive training for our teachers. That means some of them will be face-to-face, some of them will be virtual, and the price for that is $36,200. The Reading Academies is one of the pieces that we will look at using the ESSER 3 money for. But we are asking you to approve it so that we can go ahead and get the MOU to them and get it going so our teachers can make plans for those attendance this summer. And it did, House Bill 3 allowed us to do it over the next 2 to 3 years. We would like to put it all at one time and to get everybody trained so that we're all speaking the same language and doing the same things. Because that's important that the kids hear that vocabulary that's consistent. And so if we do it all at one time, we know everybody's getting the same piece of information as a teacher. And these classes are hard. They are similar to college classes that they have to take.
Is this dollar amount including teacher compensation for coming in during the summer, or is that included in hours that they're required to?
It's included in the hours that they're required to, and then part of it will be during the school year as well. There's different modules that they have to do.
Any other questions? If not, entertain a motion.
Make a motion that the board of trustees approve the ESC Region 13 MOU for Reading Academy this summer in the amount of $36,200.
Got a motion by Clint Shy, second by Hank Peters. Any discussion? Hearing none, proceed to vote. All those in favor? Those opposed, the motion passes 6-0. It is now 9:43, and the board may go into closed session pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551.074 to discuss the duties of the superintendent. Pursuant to Texas Government Code 551.074 to discuss the employment of professional personnel to include teachers, and Section 551.072 to deliberate the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property. Any related action be taken in open session.
do that.
I'm picking.
And so it's like.
Yeah.
It has. Wait, nice. It's 10:55.
All right, it is 10:55 and we are back in open session. Do we have any motions?
Yes, I move that the board approve the superintendent's personnel recommendations for professional employment as presented.
Got a motion by Hank Peter, second by Donna Gillen, any discussion? Hearing none, proceed to vote, all those in favor? Those opposed, motion passes 6-0. Having no other business, it is now 10:56. And we are adjourned.
Would y'all like 2 minutes, Colin Miller?
Yes, please.
Congratulations.
It was worth the wait. We're very excited to have Coach Miller. He's been working hard to get everything lined up for this summer. For the kids to play and getting schedules ready and tournaments. A ton of energy. It's going to be great for our boys and for our program.
Excited to be involved.
Yes. Purple and gold.
Well, he's going to be down, but we'll see what he does.
Renee, great job. Congratulations.
Hi, what's the start time? Welcome.
Not sure.
He was prepared.
Yeah, he's, well.
I don't think No.
Football wasn't doing it one thing.
You don't need anything else.
No, I'll take
I'll try to bring that over to us. Trying to get y'all signed up.
I gotta put everything up still.
Thank you. Take your time. Yes, sir. St. Marcus and Blanco.
What's their license?
Dollar. He works at,
Yeah, my dad was friends with him.
Or the assistant, either one.